Facebook allows, this one is also wild. Speaking of information warfare.
Who sent this? Was it Vin?
Oh, was it?
Yeah, I think Vin.
This is wild. This is on Reuters. This is Facebook allowing war posts urging violence against Russian invaders. So typically these social media would have very strict rules around the inciting of violence or the encouragement of violence, any violence. It would just be rules. And then you get into these scenarios like an active war or an active invasion, conflict. And all of a sudden that's those people's reality. Whoever is there, they are now exposed to violence. And here they have this social media where presumably they still communicate about what their lives are like, about invasions and about violence and about attacks and so forth. And then Facebook has to come in and kind of decide how that fits into their typical terms and how those terms would shift or skew or change to meet this new criteria of this new reality. Meta platforms will allow Facebook and Instagram users in some countries to call for violence against Russians and Russian soldiers in the context of the Ukraine invasion, according to internal emails seen by Reuters on Thursday, in a temporary change to its hate speech policy. So there's a policy that exists about it. That you can't, these words or this incitement, and we've heard about it with other platforms. And there's similar policies when it comes to things like doxing. Special times call for special measures, I suppose. And all of a sudden it's like, well, time for a reconfiguration.
This is deeply disconcerting. Allowing some countries to call for violence to Russian soldiers.
Not countries, individuals.
Individuals. What if this, like when this thing is over, this invasion, based on what people are saying within Meta, will other people interpret Russians a different way? I'm just talking about Russian citizens, even.
Oh, for sure. Man, it's
in a negative light.
The impact of this thing. You have the war in the immediate sense. You have the conflict in the immediate sense. You have the physical consequences of war taking place right now. The psychological consequence of war is generations. Generations, right? You've seen it play out time and time because the residual, the psychological residual of having gone through these experiences, and violence worse. Violence is deep, man. It's the worst. It is the worst. And so you're right. If we are bombarded with this violence and people are interpreting this violence from their own perspective and coming to their own conclusions about how this happened or what this means, then a percentage, a portion are going to use it as fuel, possibly against people who don't necessarily deserve it or who aren't directly connected to it. It's totally possible. As a result of the Russian invasion of Ukraine, we have temporarily made allowances for forms of political expression that would normally violate our rules, like violent speech, such as death to Russian invaders. We still won't allow credible calls for violence against Russian civilians. So they're saying, you know what this is like? This reminds me of self-defense laws. When they say, when you can't, like you obviously cannot punch somebody in the face. Can't walk up to somebody and punch them in the face. If they open your front door and start stealing things out of your fridge,
now you can.
Well, you're defending. Or if they're threatening bodily harm or they're holding you down, it's within your rights to fight back in those scenarios. And so I think what their angle is if it's a military invasion, you have a right to defend yourself. And you have a right to post about defending yourself, I presume. Or you have a right to post calling on others to defend themselves. This is an internal memo, so who knows if they'll modify this, but It's interesting the speech and the quote that they chose, death to Russian invaders, that would normally violate their rules. But it sounds like that exact statement would not violate their rules in this new scenario. So I guess the key word there is invaders. If it said death to Russians, hate speech.
Yes.
Death to Russian invaders, acceptable. But you see how squirrely it gets with monitoring this and determining what is and isn't. But you have to imagine, Will, when you have something so visceral, when you're engaged in active war, when you are under attack, when the pressure is being applied to you like that, how you might act.
Yeah.
As a civilian, if you were a civilian in Ukraine right now.
This could be a war cry, with, a group of members that we're fighting the war.
Man, you think about the internet and you think about typical social media overreaction, right? This, you suck, KYS. You know what I'm saying? Like the typical, oh God, this is so overboard.
And also very rudimentary.
But then you realize there are a number of scenarios in life, or the potential scenarios where that can be a real daily experience, of a tangible daily experience, that the motivation to get up and to defend your country. It's heavy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And social media, man, making these rules. I don't want to be Mark.
No.
You can
gig.
write that. You can't write that. And then the global consequences. Twitter's the same. You look at the stuff going on Twitter right now.
Uh-huh.
YouTube's the same. You see the stuff going on YouTube right now.